Why did everyone freak out and dump their XRP today? Look, it wasn't just XRP getting crushed. The whole crypto market basically went through a blender. And man, if this doesn't show you why leverage trading is absolutely nuts, what will? People got completely destroyed today. Just totally caught off guard. Nobody saw this coming. But here's the kicker. There's actually a legitimate reason this happened. Most of the time when crypto goes haywire, it's just because the market's being the market. But today, something real actually set this whole thing off. So you're probably thinking, does this mess up the XRP story? Are we still hitting new highs? And if we're supposed to get that insane moonshot rally, did today just put it on hold? Well, a bunch of analysts are saying, yeah, we could definitely drop further before things turn around. That's part of the story, sure. In terms of whether this is going to push everything way back, I'm really not seeing it. And get this, even though crypto and the stock market both took hits today, the market's not actually treating this like some huge disaster. Now, crypto definitely got hit harder than stocks, but here's what's wild. The S&P 500 actually ended up today. Can you believe that? After all the news that triggered this mess, and I'll dive into that in a minute. So while crypto didn't bounce back as much, stocks totally shrugged it off. People just aren't losing their minds over this whole thing. But look, before we go any deeper, I got to be super clear here. I have zero financial background whatsoever. I'm not giving you financial advice, and you absolutely should not buy or sell anything based on what I'm saying. Seriously, don't do that. So as I'm making this video, XRP is chilling at $3.08. And man, look at this bloodbath. XRP just face-planted hard this morning. Bitcoin did the exact same thing too. Seriously, it's like they're connected at the hip. I keep switching between these browser tabs, and it's literally the same disaster chart. They might as well be the same coin today. Obviously, XRP didn't get picked on specifically here. And here's the kicker. The S&P 500 actually managed to stay positive, not by much. But after today's insanity, that's pretty incredible. Squeaked out a tiny 0.03% gain to hit $6,468. Absolutely nuts. So what triggered this whole meltdown? Here's the smoking gun. Reuters hit us with this gem. U.S. producer inflation heats up as goods, services prices soar. Translation? Producer prices in America just had their biggest spike in 3 years this July. Everything's getting pricier across the board, which is basically a big flashing warning sign that inflation could be roaring back to life. And now the Fed's sitting there like, well, this is awkward. The Labor Department dropped this stronger-than-expected producer inflation report on Thursday, and it came right after we saw data showing consumers are getting hammered with higher prices for stuff like dental work and flights last month. Plus, there's no sign the job market's getting any worse in early August. Then, of course, everyone and their mother covered this story. That's basically the news-moving markets today. Cointelegraph jumped on it too, and they highlighted what the market's really obsessing over. These two key points right here, that they're pointing out that Bitcoin tanked right after this inflation report came out. And here's the big one. The odds of a Fed rate cut next month just dropped from 99.8% down to 90.5%. So this morning, it was basically guaranteed we'd see a rate cut next month. I mean, 99.8%. That's as close to a sure thing as you get. Now, there's a bit more doubt creeping in, and that's got people spooked. Look, whether you think rate cuts are awesome or terrible doesn't matter. The market wants that cut, and now they're not as confident it's actually happening. So all this crypto craziness we're seeing, look, this kind of wild swing happens in bull markets anyway. Sure, this time we actually had a real trigger, some news that spooked people, and then liquidations just snowballed from there. But honestly, this is just typical crypto being crypto. I mean, what did we lose in market cap? About $200 billion since last night when Bitcoin was hitting record highs. And remember, Bitcoin literally broke above $124,000 for the first time ever last night. That just happened. So going from that peak down to a 24-hour low of $117,682, that's honestly pretty normal volatility for crypto. Though I gotta say, having been around when the entire crypto market was worth like $150 billion, it's pretty mind-blowing to see more than that get erased in a single day. More than the whole dang market was worth when I got into crypto back in 2017. Just nuts to think about. Then there's this story from Decrypt. U.S. will not be purchasing any Bitcoin, Treasury Secretary Yellen says. Some people are claiming this helped tank the market. I'm calling BS on that. Doesn't make sense at all. The entire market, crypto and stocks, dropped at the exact same time, perfectly lining up with that inflation news. This Bitcoin story might not help things, but I seriously doubt it had any real impact on today's bloodbath. Here's what chart analyst Credible Crypto posted last night, and it's pretty interesting. He said, new Bitcoin all-time highs, but then warned that the move up is very choppy, so this is likely still part of some flat, running, or expanded pattern, which means we could still pull back despite hitting new highs. So he was basically saying, hey, this could reverse, and boom. That's exactly what happened. Sure, it took a news event to trigger it, but that's still how it played out. That's what he thought the charts were telling him was most likely. Then this morning, he drops this update, and there's our pullback. I don't make the rules, I just try to follow them as best I can. Impulsive break of highs equals full bull, corrective break of highs equals fake bull. Simple. He's saying 114,000 to 116,000 is where we might see a real bounce, so hopefully the damage stays pretty contained from here. His take, even if we drop a bit more, it probably won't be anything catastrophic. And in another post, he mentioned that if it does break lower, we might see something closer to $110,000. And that seems to be his worst-case scenario, not that he's saying it will happen, just what could potentially go down. But look, even if that worst-case scenario plays out, check out his chart here. He's still mapping Bitcoin to push up towards $140,000 and beyond. Like, big picture, nothing's actually changed here, people. Everything's totally fine, timing-wise, too. This isn't going to massively delay whatever's supposed to happen next. Bitcoin's still following that global M2 money supply pattern, and the rest of crypto's just along for the ride. Here's what chart analyst Ali Martinez posted yesterday evening. 320 million XRP bought by whales in the last 72 hours. Now look, whales don't usually get caught with their pants down. Sure, they couldn't have predicted today's inflation news or that the market would take a nosedive, but these aren't the type of players who panic easily. I seriously doubt their bullish outlook just evaporated because of today's drama. They're not going to emotionally freak out and dump everything like your typical retail trader who gets spooked by every little dip. Just wanted to point that out. There's been some serious confidence from big XRP buyers lately. That's a pretty solid signal if you ask me. Here's what chart analyst Cryptos posted this morning. He's saying bearish XRP 4-hour close below support. If this level isn't reclaimed, we can expect the sell-off to continue. And that level he's talking about, $3.09. We're literally sitting 1 penny below that right now. So even if we drop a bit more from here, it's really just short-term noise. Doesn't change the bigger story at all, so I'd say everything's still on track. Here's a fresh post from chart analyst Crypto Insight UK. He's saying, liquidity growing above us for XRP in the last 2 days. Send it to $4.34 with haste. So this guy's talking about price discovery and another new all-time high for XRP. And this is after all the morning chaos that freaked everyone out. From his angle, today's news drama isn't changing squat about where XRP's headed. Here's a post from chart analyst CW. He's saying, all high leverage long positions on XRP have been liquidated. And this is exactly why I said at the beginning, if this doesn't show you that playing with leverage is absolutely insane for like 99.9% of people, what's it going to take to convince you? Just total carnage out there. People got their faces ripped off financially. Some folks are having really, really bad days because they just had to juice their crypto positions. They just couldn't help themselves. You can get thousands of % gains in crypto just by buying and holding, literally doing nothing. But that wasn't good enough for them. Nope, they had to amp it up and put their entire position at risk, and now they've got zilch. Hey, you do you, but me? I'm staying far away from that mess. No leverage for this guy, not happening. Check out this post from chart analyst KC Trades. She dropped this gem this morning right after everything went crazy. She's like, XRP just tanked 7% in 15 minutes flat. $420 million got wiped out across crypto. Seriously, people, don't mess around with this stuff. The whole crypto scene just got absolutely wrecked. In one brutal 15-minute stretch, XRP nosedived over 7%. And pretty much every other crypto got hammered just as hard. In barely 20 minutes, boom, over $420 million in leveraged positions got completely liquidated. That's just nuts. XRP went from holding that $3.21 support level and then just crashed straight down to $3 in a heartbeat. I'm not totally sure where she's pulling that exact number from, though. When I check Livecoin Watch, looks like it bottomed out around $3.06, so maybe on certain exchanges it did hit $3. Who knows? But honestly, we're getting into the weeds here. Bottom line, it dropped hard and it dropped fast. Yeah, lightning fast. So Anyway, she goes on to say that from that $3 bottom, XRP bounced right back up and grabbed those key golden retracement levels at $3.11. This whole thing screams liquidity hunt to me. Just take a look at the chart. You can see how the wick stabbed down to those lower levels, but here's the kicker. The actual candle body still played nice with the major support zones. Classic liquidity grab move right there. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, this looks way more like we're setting up a double bottom pattern than any kind of real breakdown. The drop actually respected those big fib levels. Price didn't even touch that major 0.5 retrace down at $2.76 from the correction low. Today's bottom actually landed perfectly on that 382 retrace at $3. And let's be honest here, there's no real reason this should have happened from a fundamentals perspective. Some folks are pointing fingers at the inflation data. Others are rehashing that old story about the US not buying Bitcoin for reserves. But come on, this looks way more like someone with deep pockets decided to shake out all the weak hands and grab some cheap coins. Look, I'm absolutely convinced this whole drop happened because of that inflation data. The timing is just too perfect to be a coincidence. I mean, come on, it lines up to the exact minute. To me, it's pretty cut and dry. But here's what she's saying, and I think this is the real key. Our big picture bullish setup is still totally fine. As long as we stay above that $2.76 low, we're still on track for those same upside targets. Those extension levels from the recent bottoms are still pointing right at that $4.70 zone for our next major breakout. The real thing to keep your eye on now is whether XRP can hold that $3.11 support after all this craziness. If it does, we could see some explosive momentum kick in. This is exactly the kind of wild volatility we live for. This whole recovery above support has probably left a bunch of shorts completely screwed, which could fuel another leg up. So here are the levels I'm watching. $3.11 and that $3 level too. For resistance, we got $3.21, then $3.41, and then that all-time high at $3.66. Our macro bullish target is still that $4.70 extension. Yeah, it was absolutely nuts in the short term, but honestly, we're all pretty used to this kind of madness by now. The big picture is still bullish. Like I said from the start, nothing's really changed here fundamentally. Sure, it spooks some people, but I just don't get emotionally rattled by this stuff anymore. I mean, honestly, if I got rattled by every drop, there's no way I would have survived almost 6 years in this space. This November marks my 6-year crypto anniversary. This is just how it goes in crypto. I'm totally convinced this asset class is only going to keep growing over time. So what's the absolute worst case scenario here? That we've already hit the top and nobody realizes it yet, and we're about to dive into some brutal multi-year bear market. Do I think that's happening? Not for a second, but even if it did, my game plan stays exactly the same. Like I just keep holding what I've got, keep making money from my regular job, and keep buying more. Then when the next bull run comes around, I'll sell if the price is right. Simple as that. It literally doesn't change my strategy at all. I'm still pumped to be in this space. Oh, wait, everything's just going to be worth more eventually. I can't control the timing, and honestly, I don't stress about what I can't control. I've set myself up exactly how I want to be positioned, and I'm really happy with that. So, what's the worst that could happen? I have to wait a bit longer than I'd like for life-changing money. Oh no, I might hit financial freedom a few years later than hoped. Come on, we need to be realistic adults about this. And that's truly the worst case scenario because this asset class isn't going anywhere. It's only getting bigger. Give it enough time and we'll see this market hit $10 trillion, then tens of trillions, and eventually over $100 trillion. Keep your eyes on the prize, everyone. And so C. Greg Crypto just dropped his latest take. XRP needs to stay glued above $3.13 on the daily or we're basically toast with this liquidation nightmare. But hey, if we tap dance down to that $2.65 low and bounce back, that'll seal the deal for confirmation. And listen, I've been beating this $3.30 drum forever. We absolutely need 3 solid daily closes above that magic number to kick any doom and gloom thoughts right out the window. It's the same deal here. Hit $3.30 or we might slide down to that scary $2.65 zone, but zoom out, still ridiculously bullish on the macro. Another day, another analyst saying, yeah, watch these spots, but we're golden. That's the vibe I'm getting everywhere I look. Zero panic in the streets. All the smart money guys I track, cool as cucumbers. And why wouldn't they be? These aren't rookies who just downloaded Coinbase yesterday. They've survived every crypto apocalypse you can imagine. A little red on the charts isn't going to send these veterans into therapy sessions. We're climbing this mountain, people. Even if we stumble backwards a few steps first, the destination hasn't changed. Won't even be a footnote in the history books. Standard disclaimer time. I'm just some guy on the internet, not your financial guru. Trading based on my rambling would be like taking dating advice from a monk. Don't do it.